And start recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 4 of our podcast where we talk about fantasy worlds. Lily, how's quarantine going for you?
It's going pretty stinky right now, but I'm eating some French toast sticks, so I'm not feeling so bad right at this moment.
Yes, I haven't eaten anything yet, but French toast definitely sounds really good. Do you have any like comfort TV shows that, come to mind?
I've been watching Community a lot with Megan. It's my first go around watching it and I really like it. It's very like found family vibes, very
Yes.
like sitcom, just like I like it a lot. But I should start watching Pushing Daisies again because it's definitely like my comfort show. Um,
That's incredibly cute. I haven't seen either Community or Pushing Daisies, but I've seen
oh
a
my
lot of people
god.
are watching Community right now. I watch one
Yeah.
episode of Community, um, for class. For my media arts class, I had to watch an episode of Community and talk
Oh
about
my
how
god.
they represented feminism in it. So.
I love that.
Um, well, a comfort show of mine is 100% Avatar: The Last Airbender. Um,
Oh, whoa, is it? Me too, that's crazy.
that's crazy. And wouldn't you know that today we're going to be talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender and perhaps a little bit of Legend of Korra as well, but mainly Avatar: The Last Airbender. Um, when I think of Avatar: Last Airbender, I 100% think comfort. I have trouble sleeping at night, and so I have a habit of just putting on Avatar and then just letting it run, and I fall asleep. Uh, because good vibes and it keeps the bad thoughts away.
Definitely.
How what is your impression of Avatar? How when did it come into your life, Lily? Give me your gist of it.
Oh my god. Okay, so I watched it like as a kid in the way that you just like watch TV like when whatever is on is on.
Mhm.
Um and I always really liked it, but it is a very like it is a linear story and I didn't really have the context. And it wasn't until I was like in middle school or something that I started actually watching all of it like from the beginning and I realized, oh, this is the best show ever made. Um
Yes.
I and since then I rewatch it like at least once a year. At least once a year.
100%.
Like straight through. Um I can tell you what episode it is and what exactly happens in the episode.
Yes,
It has to be like the
100%.
first like 30 seconds, I can tell you.
Uh-huh. Yes,
Um
it's and it never gets boring. That's the best part
no.
about it.
Yeah. The comedy always hits. It never like the plot lines never disappoint me. Like Avatar is the one constant in my life.
Yes, 100% agree. I got into the series actually. My mom wasn't really so into me watching a lot of TV, so I never got familiar with Avatar: The Last Airbender until later on. I actually watched Legend of Korra season 1 first as an
Really?
introduction. Yeah,
That
to
is such a
Avatar.
strange that's like okay. When I was a kid, I read the Percy Jackson series, but I read the second book first because it's all that the library had, and then I
Oh.
went back to the first book, and I feel like that's the same thing.
I don't know. The thing is, like, I knew all my friends talked about these characters and everything, and I felt kind of like out of the loop, but also I understood the story and was like in love with the characters in Legend of Korra, and I was like, man, oh yeah, Toph isn't she the blind earthbender? Oh cool, she started a police
How
force.
cool.
How cool. And I remember it has a special place in my heart because that was a time where I waited every week for the new episode of Legend of Korra to come out, and Amon was terrifying to me. But I did the only experience of Avatar: The Last Airbender when I was younger was when I was in Russia. They played like I watched two of them in Russian. Um, which the first one I watched was the bloodbending episode, so that
Oh no!
was definitely a fun one. I was like, "Whoa, this is such an edgy show," but
That's like the scariest episode.
yes. But I when I got into like freshman year of high school, I sat down and watched through the whole thing. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, um, that's how the show has entered both of our lives. How would you describe the world of Avatar, excluding Legend of Korra, because that takes the world into a huge technological twist. Just looking
Yeah.
at the original series, what's your impression of the world?
It is very like it's so well done. Like the lore is built up in such a way that it's immaculate, you know? Like they
Mhm.
have different like folklore traditions, different myths, like the stuff about like the sun and the moon being like the koi fish, like the stuff about like the first earthbenders and firebenders and waterbenders and airbenders being like um the giant badger moles, dragons,
Mhm.
um the moon for water since there isn't any animal that corresponds to water, and then the flying bison for air. Like that all just it's so nice. I just the amount of attention to detail that was put into the different cultures based on bending and just all of it blows my mind.
I go absolutely bananas for this world. I can't really put a
Yeah.
label on it because I when you would describe this world, I would just say, "Oh, that's Avatar: The Last Airbender." I can't really put any other label on it besides, "Oh, that's that's the Avatar world."
Yeah, it's something completely its own. Like it's very complex yet simplistic enough for like children to understand. Like
Right. It's
it's so
unique.
great.
Yes.
It's so great.
You definitely have those mixed Asian elements woven
De-
in there. Um,
Definitely heavily based on East Asian culture.
yes. Um, because it's made by a lot of its creators are Asian individuals.
Yes.
But they have this huge emphasis on nature and the spirit world, and that also just makes me completely nuts and bananas for this world. It's just so pure and but it's not like in a oh everything's sunshine and rainbows sort of pure, but like,
Mhm.
you know, an optimistic way, a more down to earth sort of view on the aspects of the world.
Yeah, I think so.
Um,
Um, Skipping past overall impressions, how do you like the magic system? This is like one of the quintessential examples of hard magic systems.
yeah. Um, I I mean the concept that you can bend the elements is I want to be an element bender of some sort.
Yeah.
Um,
It's sexy. It's a sexy
it
concept.
is a sexy concept. I definitely love the idea, as you mentioned, with the original benders and then it developing and such. Um, I was just in my head, I was screaming about how the water thing, the water inspiration is the moon, and
Mhm.
the moon controls the tides, and then the way that they
Yeah.
animate the water bending, I think is based off of actual like Tai Chi movements. And
Mhm.
so they kind of have movements where they're bending the water back and forth, similar to how the tides work. And it's just so well thought out. Um,
So beautiful.
the thing about the bending though is the origins of it. And in Avatar, they talked about, as you said, the moon, the badger moles. the dragons, and the bisons. But in Legend of Korra, they had the first Avatar origin story, and
Mm-hmm.
they had the turtles give the people bending. And I kind of was a little bit confused, and Serena Williams actually tweeted a really
What?
yeah, she tweeted a really popular tweet, and I had to go dig it up and find it because it resonated with me. But she said, if the original benders were the sky bisons, badger moles, and dragons, how does that tie in with Avatar 1 when the lion sea turtle gave all the people bending power? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Um, and I was like, you're right. That's a little bit confusing, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
what I have a lot of tripes with Korra, um, and that's definitely one of them. But somebody did rationalize this and say that okay, the sea turtles gave them bending, but the people learned to master it based off of those um,
Yeah.
creatures.
I would think that the creatures had already had it, and then the lion turtles gave it to the humans, and then exactly that, like the humans went to those creatures to be able to control it.
Right.
Also, another rationalization would be that like Korra is in a different time period, and like myths change and
Mhm.
like mutate over time, and that's one of the most interesting things about world building for me is like how history and myths and stories change over time. I think it's like it's just a product of our like everyone collectively like telling stories over and over again and them changing to fit with the times and to just randomly because people aren't perfect and I love that.
Mhm.
And not to be like on a soapbox or anything. I just it just makes me so excited.
Yeah, 100%. The idea that there was a person in most towns way back when called the orator, that pretty much memorized the stories of history, and because people didn't really know how to read,
Yeah.
so they would tell them, okay, this is how it happened. And of course, when you say things like that, history is mutated all the time. Memory, the human mind, the human memory is not perfect.
Oh, completely. And there's definitely lies that go into it. Definitely like the victor tells the story.
Mhm.
You history is like there's some quote that's like history is a lie that we tell ourselves like blah blah blah. I don't remember exactly what it was. It
Mhm.
doesn't make sense when I say it like that, but history is just a story. Like the past has happened and we will never know exactly as how it happened because we were not there. We can hear about how it happened, we can read about how it happened, but that's from another person's point of view who may not have had all the facts.
Mhm.
And that's, or maybe they did have all the facts and they are willingly lying to you. They wrote it down wrong to make themselves look a certain way.
Mhm.
And that's bonkers.
Bonkers. There's a lot that we just don't know, and we're only assuming. It's crazy.
Mhm.
But yeah, the definitely the ability to translate that into a different narrative is 100% so cool. I again absolutely bonkers. Which goes into the politics side of Avatar: The
Yes.
Last Airbender. Tell me your thoughts on that.
I am usually not a fan of world building that focuses on one specific event as having changed the whole world.
Mhm.
But in Avatar The Last Airbender, the Fire Nation trying to conquer everyone else feels like a very, very organic turn of events.
Mhm.
And like, I can believe that it's like this is the one thing that happened because like it is the most important thing in their lives right now and it's it's strange. Like it's just coming from Avatar. I'm like, yep, that makes sense. I love it. I love the politics in like in Bossing Say.
Mhm.
The like the secret police stuff. I think that's just so interesting as a concept. Especially like because I study German and I do like we do study a lot about like the Stasi and
Mhm.
all that, and I've seen a lot of movies about it, and it's so very interesting to me. The invasion of privacy and like the secret police like state. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then the tribe stuff for Water Tribe like politics. But, but
They have everything. And like you said, I think an important part about this whole war thing is that um this is a kids show, but it
mhm,
displays politics so well, and that it teaches kids that
imperialism even
it
like what?
I think the most impactful part about the politics to me is that there it isn't white and black in terms of like um morals. Like both sides are morally gray, you know?
Yeah,
There are good people in the Fire Nation. Yeah, we understand that there's a bad government in Fire Nation. Like they literally committed equivalent genocide
genocide.
genocide of a group of people that practice airbending. Um,
Yeah,
but it teaches them that, you know, there are citizens of the Fire Nation that don't exactly like this either.
yeah,
But also there are people in the Earth Nation that, you know, embossing say it's corrupt there.
yeah.
They're trying to
It's a
avoid the war.
completely corrupt government, even though you're like, oh, the Earth Kingdom like should be like neutral, like they're the good guys since they're not the imperialists, and it's like, well, not necessarily.
Mhm.
No.
They're trying to stem this, but they're doing it in a bad and controlling way, and they're like
Mhm.
essentially brainwashing people.
Oh,
Um,
speaking of brainwashing, Jet, and that goes
Jet.
back to like the good people on both sides
Mhm.
thing with the first episode where we see him. I think the episode is literally just titled Jet.
Mhm.
Um, he is trying to destroy a Fire Nation village that is full of innocent people.
Mhm.
And because his family has been killed by the Fire Nation, and he's completely consumed by rage towards them and all the people who live in the Fire Nation. And Aang and the gang are like, no, like you can't
No.
do that for innocent people. Um, because they just live in a nation that has become imperialistic through no control of their own.
Right. It's crazy, and this is a kids show.
Yeah,
It's completely whack to me. 100%. It just displays it in such a good way and simple to understand way, and it just blows my mind even as an adult. I saw a Tumblr post today about also talking about politics, the library episode,
oh
um,
yeah, oh
with
my
the
god.
owl spirit. I forgot his name. I think it's like 1T or something like that.
Mm.
But he essentially says everyone that comes here is just finding information for their own benefit. And here you kind of see this sort of, oh, um do the means justify the ends sort of thing where Sokka sort of breaks the rules in order to get information to help destroy the Fire Nation and everything. And of
Yeah,
course, the owl, 1T, is not happy about this, but you kind of have to think again, like, whoa, we kind of have to cross some morals to win, or do we, you know?
yeah, because the library is definitely like it is pure neutrality. It's just knowledge, and
Mhm.
the owl spirit makes a good point. Like he says, everyone who comes here and tries to take something, like thinks that they're doing the right thing,
Mhm.
like thinks that they are like the good guy. And it's like, yeah, like you everyone thinks that they're the protagonist of their own story. Everyone thinks that they're a hero for their nation, even if that nation is imperialistic. Because the thing about the Fire Nation is that they believe, for the most part, not maybe not the Fire Lord. He's kind of wacky. Um, but for the most part, the Fire Nation believes that they are more sophisticated and that they can bring um, benefit, like abundance, to these places that they are conquering. They
Mhm.
think they are doing it ultimately for these people's benefits, even if people do die along the way. Like it's a very very real reason. Like that is why a lot of nations become imperialistic, because they want to civilize other peoples.
Right. It's oh my gosh, it's just so realistic and dynamic. It's not at all linear. It makes you think. Again, the Avatar gang isn't 100% moral, but the benefit of that is that you grow with the group and trying to learn these lessons, um,
Mm-hmm.
which we will segue into favorite parts of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
This is the hardest question probably
And
ever.
the whole show.
The whole show is my favorite part. I mean, like thinking about like every episode, there's just so much stuff that I love. Like
Mhm.
it's ridiculous. I love the Bossing Say arc. Like figuring out that there's a corrupt government. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
love when Aang and Zuko go to see the ancient sun people and meet real dragons. Like
Mhm.
that scene is forever in my mind, like about how fire is life, and like it doesn't just destroy
Yeah.
things, and like that makes me go bonkers, Cleo.
It's a different perspective because again, as a kid, you're sitting there like, oh, fire is destructive, and Zuko's born with this sort of curse type of bending, and Aang is on this mindset as well because he had that incident with fire bending where he accidentally burnt Katara, and
Yeah.
these
And
ancient
after that he
sun
was like, I'm never firebending again, and it's like, boy, you need
boy.
to.
Yeah, and the ancient sun people are like, you dummy, fire is life, you
Yeah.
need heat to live. This is you can make life with this. And he's like, oh, and the thing is the show tries its hardest to show the flames and the rainbow color, but I can only imagine in real life if you're
Yeah.
in that like tube of fire. That is not what he saw. He saw like lifetimes in that fire.
Yeah.
He learned hundreds of years of wisdom in those flames.
Definitely. I
Cannot
think
even imagine.
that's very beautiful that you just said that.
Oh,
Um,
I think about this a lot.
yeah. Um,
I wanted to go into my favorite sort of arc.
yes, please tell me your favorite parts.
Okay. Well, one, I wanted to continue off the idea that isn't the Avatar group also has its like moral moments. Um, in this third to last episode, the Southern Raiders, where Katara goes to face her mother's killer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this it's my favorite thing of all time because you have this cliche trope where Aang comes in and he's like, you need to forgive um this person, you
Yeah.
will become a better person when you forgive this person. Katara's like, no, I'm gonna go kill him. And Zuko being a supportive revenge sort of
Yeah.
friend, takes this trip with her, and she has a low moment where she uses her blood bending, and she's like, at that moment I was like, Ooh, okay, Katara, pop off, but still, it's a little bit intrusive, the whole bloodbending aspect. And you
Yeah,
see,
definitely. Because in the bloodbending episode, she's like, "I never want to do that again. Like,
mhm,
it's horrible. Like, contorting someone else's will is like
mhm,
a big no no for her. She's a very very moral character, and
right.
seeing this break in that is like what? It's like
Yes,
what?
it's a huge sort of okay, Katara's messed up about this, this is
Mhm.
a struggle for her. And the thing is, she finally faces this pathetic man that killed her mother, and she's like, I'm not gonna waste my time on this. And she comes back, and Aang's like, I told you forgiveness was the answer. And Katara, oh my god, I love this. Katara essentially says, no, I didn't forgive him, and I don't think I ever will. Um,
Yeah.
I just wasn't gonna waste my time on him, and this was just an experience, and it kind of hardened her a little bit, and it did away with the whole trope where you can just forgive everyone. Um, Sort of, Aang tries to be supportive and everything in his own way, but you can't exactly forgive everyone.
No, you can't. Sometimes the best revenge is living well and forgiving someone, but sometimes you can't forgive someone.
Right.
It's it's impossible sometimes. Like he killed her mother, and I think that if he hadn't been so pathetic in that scene, if he hadn't been that old, if he was still like a strong like middle-aged man who was still like fierce and like unforgiving about it, like she would have killed him. She would have cut him
Mhm.
down. And
100%.
that's scary to think about because Katara is like she's a very motherly character. She's very empathetic. She's the epitome of like empathy and love, and that's crazy.
Mhm. Yeah, and which okay, never mind. I'm gonna go into this later. But I wanted to go into some of my other favorite parts.
Do
I,
it.
again, I really like the aspect of bloodbending.
Yes, I love the bloodbending episode. I was so scared of it as a kid.
I watch it every October. That's like one of my in my favorite month of October. That's one of the things that I have to do yearly. Um, watch the bloodbending episode. I also on top of the Katara thing, just in general, every character has their own character arc that I am just obsessed with. Um,
Hmm.
with Zuko and his redemption arc. Like that's like the iconic when people say good character arc, I think Zuko's in the top like 3
Yes.
at least. Um
It makes me want to cry thinking
yes.
about it.
Um let's see, Sokka goes from this sort of misogynistic men do everything, I'm on my own sort of deal to being open and supporting women and admiring them. Um
Within like a couple episodes.
yeah,
Kyoshi Island is like the third episode or
yes.
something.
But he gradually goes into that more and more, and he kind of grows up. I mean, all these characters grow up as they are like being hardened by these experiences of war. It's just,
Yeah, he goes through the episode where he learns from the sword master, and he becomes like
hmm
he learns that like his imagination and immaturity are not like so like they are virtues, not necessarily
hmm
like bad things. But he also like oh my gosh, it makes me want to swoon.
I mean, also Uncle Iroh, he had a character arc. You think that he's like a pinnacle character that provides wisdom all the time, but the thing is, he's not static at all either. He's not
Yeah.
just the guy that sits there and feeds you off wisdom. He's also taking in this like tragedy of the world, and he in the beginning actually is a little bit more devoted to the Fire Nation. And
Hmm.
is just kind of with Zuko because he cares about Zuko, but as the series develops, you kind of notice Uncle Iroh tries to like separate himself and goes against the Fire Nation a little bit more as Zuko
Mhm.
does. Again, it's whack.
Yeah, it's Uncle Iroh is just such an iconic character. I love him so much. I
Yes.
love him.
Um, and my okay, let's go into least favorite parts. I'm so tempted to just skip ahead to all the other questions with the segues, but let's go with least favorite parts then.
I don't like the canyon episode.
Yeah, that's the Great Divide episode.
Yeah.
That's
I have I mean I have love for it obviously because it is part of their story,
mhm,
but it feels to me very like fable-y like
cliche.
cliche
Mhm,
exactly. Even though I do love cliches, like I am such a cliche person. I love 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 cliches.
yeah.
But this one doesn't hit for me. It just doesn't hit.
You're kind of like, oh my god, just get out of this canyon. I'm
Yes.
having a miserable time.
Yes.
Um, Besides that, I wanted to say this after talking about the Southern Raiders episode, but least favorite thing that happened or whatnot is that Zutara didn't happen. I ship Zuko and Katara. I read that they were planning on doing that um from the start of the series, but then they kind of morphed it um where they put Aang and Katara together.
Hmm.
And of course, I see the realism in it, right? Zuko's whole lineage and sort of history of discriminating against her people.
Yeah,
It's definitely very hard, but I think it could have worked with some of
definitely.
their dynamics that happened throughout the show, because they had these intimate moments in the show where Katara shows empathy and Zuko is like, oh.
Oh, love and affection? I've never experienced this before.
Right, and the thing is like May, his his girlfriend, um, great character, by the way.
Hmm.
Um, but she's not the super affectionate type, which isn't a bad thing. But it was Katara entered this sort of affectionate characteristic that Zuko is Zuko isn't exactly familiar with, and I really like that dynamic, and I really wish that ended up being the conclusion between the two of them.
I actually saw a post at one point that made a really, really convincing argument for Zuko Sokka, and I ain't over that. I'm honestly I'm trying to find it right now, and I can't, and I'm mad about it.
No, you have to send that to me then once you
I
find
will,
it.
I will, because it was like drawn out, like complex.
Mhm.
I, I, I like I'll take that all the way. I love that because I also don't really agree with the Zuko May. Like they are miserable together, which is like a nice thing to be, but they don't. I don't know if they necessarily make each other happy.
No,
Which like happiness isn't everything, but like you should be able to be happy with the person you love. Um,
they were that
and not
edgy teen
miserable
couple.
together. Exactly, exactly. Which is fun, but also
Yeah,
cliche.
cliche. They don't get together. In the end, they just. I remember in the comics they split off. I'm pretty sure. Um,
Oh, okay.
so Zuko's wife is unknown to all of us apparently.
I did
So
not know that. I have read some of the comics specifically, like I think The Search was the one where he looks for his mother and he finds out like all this stuff about her. Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's whack.
Ugh, it's so good.
Um, yeah. I distinctly remember May has like this last straw with him in the comics, and she's like, "Bye," and I think they kind of reconciled as friends, but that was the end of their relationship, and we don't know the current wife of Zuko. Um, I did see there's the whole there's a few hints in the TV show that Toph has a crush on Sokka.
Oh yeah, there's definitely like there's definitely like evidence for like that
Mm.
ship essentially. Like I really like that ship honestly. I think it's very like it's very sweet because they're both kind of
Bros.
like they're bros. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
it's like
bros.
a bromance, you know.
I'm thinking about the Zuko Sokka dynamic right now, and I
Yeah.
the thing
I'm
is,
still trying to find that.
I remember in Korra about how Sokka didn't end up with anybody, um,
Hmm.
and I always thought of that as because there are moments where he's with Suki when they're on that Serpentine's Pass and Suki and Sokka are about to kiss, and iconic moment. There's the moon behind them, and
Hmm.
Sokka pulls away, and I take it as Sokka not getting married later on because he could never get over Yue.
Yue, yeah,
Yeah.
which I think is like that makes my heart go boom. Like, ugh.
I'm like, ah, but um, all right, let's. There's so much to talk about this show.
There's so much to talk about.
We could talk about this for hours. Which is
Yeah.
why we can only talk about Avatar and not Legend of Korra because
We should probably do like a second episode for
yeah,
Legend of Korra. We'll do
yes,
a part two.
yes. So part two is Legend of Korra. Let's go into. We have iconic characters next, but I want to hear who's your favorite character, and then you can
Oh,
go
don't
into.
ask me that.
Okay, if you don't have a favorite character, then tell me who your favorite characters are then, because I
Okay,
have a favorite
definitely
character.
Uncle Iroh.
Mhm.
Like he's up near the top, especially when we get to see like some of his backstory in Tales of Ba Sing Se, and you get to see like how much he like loves and is like devoted to like his son who is dead, who died in the war, and I just
Yeah.
that makes my heart explode. I cry every
What's
time.
the song? Leaves on the vine.
Yeah, leaves on the vine falling so slow, little
Yes.
tiny shells drifting in the foam.
And his voice starts cracking when he sings it, and
Oh my god.
no.
Stop. I will cry. I will cry on this podcast.
Okay, Uncle Ira. Agreed.
Um, Zuko is definitely
Oh God.
iconic, beyond iconic.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess I'm just going for the entire family because Azula is like the most iconic villain of all time.
Yes.
Like she is so she's so confident. She
Femme fatale.
is
Mhm.
exactly she's femme fatale type. Like um, she she's confident to the point of failure too. Like because she is so convinced that May is afraid of her enough to keep her under her power that when May ends up
Right.
like being oh like I am afraid of you but I love Zuko more.
Mhm.
I think that's like that was such an iconic scene, especially when Ty Lee betrays her as well.
Mhm.
Ty Lee is such an iconic character. Oh my god. If I could have a whole like mini series about Ty Lee, that would be a lot for me.
Yeah.
A lot.
Every boy that I ask, I'm like, who did he have a crush on? They're like, Ty.
For me, like Ty Lee would be the most likely to be like queer. Like that's
Yeah.
every time I see her, I'm like, that's not a straight girl. Like you can't tell me that. You can't convince me that. She's in this circus.
Of course. We
um,
accept love from everyone.
we accept love from everyone. I love Ty Lee. But
I
Azula's whole like her whole character arc not being necessarily like good in the end for her. Like she
Mhm.
does like have a complete mental break.
I was gonna
Um,
say, since we're on the topic of Azula, my
mhm.
favorite character in Avatar: Last Airbender is actually Azula, um, 'cause I
I
think,
completely understand.
yeah, so it's like she is strong, but manipulative, and it's almost like awe-inspiring. Of course, if I lived in that world, obviously not my favorite character, be
Oh yeah.
absolutely terrified of her. But watching, I'm like, dang, like powerful woman. And the thing is, there's something about the end. I just love the sequence where she's going crazy and she's like preparing to be coronated as the next Fire Lord.
Mhm. She's looking in the mirror and she cuts her bangs.
Yeah, she like hallucinates her mom talking to her, and it shows like Azula has this sort of trauma, and she's her mom is like, "Oh, that's such a shame. You had always had such pretty hair." And there's her like
Yeah.
jagged bangs hanging in front of her face, and you're like, "Oh my God." And she has this sort of like crazy walk, where you're moving more side to side rather than, standing up straight, and everything is like tilted on her, and Zuko comes in and she's like, "Oh, brother, look who's come." And it's just a whack, and she's insane
Mhm.
enough to attack Tara in this iconic fight between Zuko and Azula,
Oh yeah. Oh
and
my.
this tense moment where Katara puts her down, and in the end she's still going off. She's breathing fire, and she's like,
Yeah.
she's ugly crying. Iconic character. My most favorite
Yeah.
character. Okay, sorry,
I
had to
mean,
pop off while we were on the topic of
Azula
Azula.
train. No, completely understandable. Like that scene is okay. So the pre-coronation scene is so iconic, but the fight scene between Azula and Zuko
With
is
the
one of
Agni
the
Kai,
most
that was the
beautifully
word.
animated. Yes, the Agni Kai. Thank you.
Mhm.
Is so beautifully animated. I don't like the the fire. Like it.
Yeah.
Like I'm holding my face in my hands right now, just because like
Yeah, the blue versus the orange.
yes. Oh my
Oh.
gosh.
Well,
How
I
oh
kind of get the same vibe as as we talked before, when they went to see the dragons and they saw the rainbow fire, and I said, I couldn't even imagine it, like,
oh I couldn't imagine what that would look like in real life. Oh my god.
yeah, so I feel like that translates to the Agni Kai fight. I feel like there were colors in the flame in these vibes that I could not comprehend just looking at the screen. There was a lot of emotion there, and just they could only just do the stark blue and orange, but I got the sense that I was getting the same vibe as, these
Yeah.
flames from the dragons.
We need to watch this show together.
And pause every 5 minutes and go.
Yes, please. Go into it. But for this scene, the part where Azula is like she catches Katara in a moment of like distraction
Mhm.
and she starts to shoot lightning at her and Zuko jumps in front and catches the lightning in his chest and redirects it. That is just oh my god, that's breathtaking. It's breathtaking.
The Zutaro buildup is right there. I
Yeah,
just,
it's right there. It's right
it's
there.
right there.
I'm reading it like a book.
I'm reading it like a book. Oh my god. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And, jeez.
And I'm sure you know this from reading the comics, but like it is either implied or confirmed that Zuko and Azula have different fathers.
Wait, what? I don't remember that.
That essentially like their mother
Had an affair?
had an affair with the man that she was supposed to marry before the Fire Lord came in and essentially like snatched her up.
Ah.
Yeah, which is it makes sense to me in terms of like the Fire Lord and Azula both having this kind of like madness in them that Zuko doesn't necessarily have. He
Mhm.
has in the beginning, but I think that's more of a result of circumstance rather than like
Yeah.
actual like madness. And this could spark a whole conversation about mental illness, but I am never sure where to like look between like where it comes from like oh this is a genetic disorder, like this is an actual mental illness, and between like this is like situational trauma that has caused this personality to develop, and it's
Right.
like I don't.
I mean, the mother, 100%, it could not be genetic, and that the mother could have just instinctually treated one kid one way because,
Right.
this is the kid of the guy that I don't want to be with. And
Yes,
then
that's
this is the
completely
kid
right.
of the love of my life. And so that sort of inherent behavior towards the both of them could have garnered this sort of attitude and trauma for both of these kids. Um,
Definitely. There's so many meta posts about like the mental state of Zuko versus Azula. I think
mhm,
I don't even know how to properly address any of that.
right,
It's so it's so large and complex.
right. I
And also, who are we to apply our standards of like mental health to characters in this world that may not either see it the same way culturally or like experience
war,
any of these things the same way because they have completely different lived experience than anyone who lives on the planet Earth.
right. But some of us have gone through war. I 100% have not gone through war or
Yeah.
trauma of that sort. Um, but they live in this open and very distant world. And it's daunting, it's terrifying, and but at the same time it's a kid show, and they are able to put this sort of light in there, and it's
Yeah.
it's not just, oh, things suck. It's
It's
also there's the
yeah.
little things. This is what you can appreciate.
It is so beautiful. And I think it is great that it is a kids show and it is incredibly sophisticated. They don't look down on their viewers for being children. They say like, "Oh, like
Mhm.
kids can understand these really heavy themes. Like we
Mhm.
like kids have a deep breadth of understanding for things like this. Like they're not like they may miss some of the nuance, but they're going to get it. Like
Right.
which
Uh
is super crazy to me. Just
so
blows my mind.
blows my mind. We've talked a lot about character arcs because this show is chock full of character arcs. But let's talk about what were some of your favorite episodes?
Oh man, okay. The Blue Spirit,
Oh
definitely
yes.
the one where Aang is Katara and Sokka are sick with some kind of flu, some random sickness, and he has to go and find like a cure for them. And he goes to this medicine woman and is like blah blah blah, and she sends him to get some frogs, and he gets captured by the Fire Nation while getting these frozen frogs.
It's such a roller coaster.
It's such a good episode balancing the silly with like the frogs jumping out of his clothes because they're melting and he's like, oh no, my frogs, and also the really serious like him being held hostage by the Blue Spirit who is taking him out of this Fire Nation fortress but also trying to keep him for himself because at this point Zuko is still trying to get the like take him home to his father for the bounty,
Mhm.
uh, the bounty of him being returned to the family and like not disowned anymore.
Right.
Um, but it has these moments of lightness and this intensity, and the scene in the forest where Zuko wakes up and Aang is talking about like we could be friends, like we
He said something like, do you think if we weren't in this situation, with the war and such, he's like, do you think we would be friends? And then
yeah,
Zuko just attacks him, and then,
yeah.
oh my god, it's
Even
just,
like half-heartedly, like he shoots some flame at him and then like Aang goes away and like that's it. And I just it makes me want to weep
I
every
I eat
time.
that shit up. I'm like, oh my god.
Delicious. The flavor, it's
Yeah.
there.
100%.
Um, Probably not my all-time favorite, but it is definitely what comes to mind right now.
Mhm. I've mentioned the Southern Raiders episode,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you've mentioned the Tales of Ba Sing Se, as
Oh,
well. Really good. I think a lot of good episodes. So let's see. The Painted Lady is a good episode.
yes. Yes.
Um, The Blind Bandit, where we get Toph for the first time. Um, and then the episode where Toph is able to scam the scammers
Oh my
and
gosh.
and get the
That one always
money.
stresses me out. Ugh.
With Combustion Man, or Sparky Sparky Boom Man, as Sokka
As is his
nicknamed him,
official name.
his official name. Um, the, the two episodes that really like stressed me out was where the episodes were at they were at the prison. God, those two
Oh, the
episodes
boiling
stress
rock?
me. Yes, at Boiling Rock.
Yes.
Those two episodes stress me out so much, but they're good,
Yeah,
you know.
me too. But like I sometimes when it when I'm going through the whole series and I get to the boiling rock, I'm like, oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. I'm gonna be stressed for like half an hour.
um, let's see. I just it's
Even though
so
I really do
hard.
like the prison outfits.
Oh, iconic episode. Ember Island.
Oh my god. I this episode is so it's like, oh, like cool, like beach episode, but it's not with the regular people that we normally see. It's with the villain team. We get
For
beach episode with the villain team, and I say, what? And I
yes.
really like it because it does show this different side to Azula.
Mhm.
It does show like some of her like thinking processes, like and how
She's just a
her
teenage
and
girl.
Zuko. Yeah, she's a teenage girl. She's at the beginning of the series. She's like what, 14 years old,
Yeah.
and like she's undergone all of this trauma and emotional manipulation by her father and this lack of love from her mother. And they go back to the beach house that like they used to stay at with their whole family, and her and Zuko are just standing there, and like it's just so it has that feeling of like nostalgia but also loss, and I just
Right.
it's
And
such a big feeling.
and they're sitting around the campfire talking about each other's like faults. And they get a little bit butthurt with each other, but in the end they
Oh
kind
yeah.
of just like, oh, we're bros. And the thing is, they have like one common thing with all each other.
They're all fucked up.
Yeah, they're all fucked up by like having a family, being fucked up by this war. They're
Yeah,
in this,
exactly.
they're under this tyranny, right? And it just impacts their lives. Um,
Mm.
but on a more lighthearted note, there are there are numerous.
Before we go lighthearted,
Okay,
I
before we
love the part where they're Zuko is like not bearing his soul, and they're like, "Why are you so angry? Like, who are you angry at? Are you angry at me? Are you
yes,
angry at mom?" And he goes, "I'm angry with myself," and I just like
yeah,
I get that. I feel that. I
he's
do. I'm a person who experiences a lot of anger, and I definitely like don't seem that way because I do keep it inside me where it will live forever.
Mhm.
Um, but I definitely like whenever I see that, I'm like, oh shit, I feel that. But go to the lighthearted, please.
Oh, lighthearted. Um, I was just watching a clip today about where Azula sees people playing volleyball, and a sense of competitiveness sparks within her, and she is laying out a battle strategy for their match volleyball, and she's like, the kicker back there, she has a slight hesitation with her left leg. It's signs
Yeah,
of a
a childhood injury.
yeah, childhood injury. So aim for her left side, and I'm like, Jesus. It's like you're putting Azula's sort of manipulative, but also observant, military leader strategy in a more comical sense.
Yeah.
But there's like this argument where it's like, okay, is Avatar: The Last Airbender an anime? And one of the things about these animes is that there's always this weird inserted beach episode. And so
Yes.
people are like, yeah, Avatar's an anime because there's this weird inserted beach episode. Um,
It's a weird argument because in the US we think of anime as Japanese made animation, but in Japan they think of anime as animation, like
mhm.
full stop. And so it's like and it's also like it's American created. Avatar: The Last Airbender is American created, but it also takes a lot of cues from Japanese anime.
Mhm.
And it's like so it's like in the US it's like no, this isn't anime, but in
But it
Japan
is.
it is anime. And I'm like, oh, it breaks my brain.
um, to go into Ember Island player, but also going into our little last segment where we talk about best lines in this film. Which, by the way, every line in this film
Everyone. Yeah.
is iconic. But and this from this film, since from this episode, since we're talking about it, there's the comical Azula trying to flirt with Chad, right?
Oh my
And she's
god,
like,
yes, yes, yes.
oh, Chan. I'm sorry, not Chad. Chan. She's like,
So,
that's
oh, sorry,
that's
Chan. Yeah, it's so different.
that's a sharp outfit, Chan. Careful, you could puncture the hull of an Empire-class Fire Nation battleship, leaving thousands to drown at sea because it's so sharp. And I just cackle when I.
The intensity.
And Chan is like, uh.
Yeah.
Iconic
Um,
line.
for me, it's always gonna be that's rough, buddy.
That's rough, buddy. My girlfriend turned into the moon. After Zuko goes into this whole spiel about his feelings, all Sokka has to offer is my girlfriend turned into the moon, and all that Zuko can muster is that's rough,
That's
buddy.
rough, buddy. It just.
It's so goofy. Honestly, one of my favorite things about watching is when boys are by themselves and they're just being boys, and not the boys will be boys sense, but in boys will be stupid idiots and say stupid idiot things.
Yeah.
Sort of hilarious stuff. S-
That reminds me. I was watching the video yesterday where it's like a bunch of boys on a trampoline and they're making this. They're bouncing so that this one kid gets like a lot of like height on his jump, and he does like this like furious like spin, and he pops back down, and everyone's like congratulating him. That's the true meaning of boys will be boys.
That's the true meaning. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Um, in more serious lines, I have written down Uncle Iroh, of course, has many good lines. Two of which, first one, sometimes the best way to solve your own problems is to help someone else. And of course, this doesn't apply all of the time, but this kind of hit me personally because I try doing that all the time. And when Uncle Iroh said that, I was kind of self conscious of that fact. Um, and the other line being Uncle Iroh talking to Aang, where Aang is like, I couldn't clear all my chakras, or couldn't clear the final chakra because, I, I love Katara and I couldn't just let go of this earthly possession, and so I can't enter the Avatar state. And Uncle Iroh says, power and perfection are overrated. I think you are wise to choose happiness and love. And that just gutted me. I want to.
Yeah, it makes me go feral.
I'm like, well, I'll have some happiness and love as a treat, Uncle Iroh. Um,
One that hits for me is when Zuko says, "This is, I think it's the end of book one, and he is in this cave with he has just captured Aang, but there's a blizzard outside, and he
yes.
is like kind of delirious from like the cold because he swum through like this like water tunnel and
Mhm.
like also this is a thing like he can hold his breath longer than other people like for a supernaturally long time like that's like in the wiki like he can do that
He could just do that.
just an aside but in this like spiel that he does at the end he says like I don't need luck though. I don't want it. I've always had to struggle and fight and that's made me strong. It's made me who I am.
Dang.
And for me like that does hit because like I've had traumatic things happen to me in my life and had I have experienced hardship and people will ask me like if there's anything that you could change about your life like if there's anything that you could change about like your life so far like what would you change and I'm like nothing like
Right.
it's me who I am I wouldn't I don't think I would be like a person who tries to be kind or someone who cares so deeply for other people if I hadn't experienced what I did experience.
Mhm.
Um, like it's made me strong. Like I don't appreciate the people who did those things to me, but like my reaction to those things has made me the person that I am. Not to get like really heavy.
Right. Um, Definitely. And if even if you were to go back and change those things, right? Um, I feel like other things will come to replace that, and you would
Mm-hmm.
be a different person. And
Definitely.
who better do you know the best than the person that you are now?
Yeah.
100%. Did he have any other lines that you really love from Avatar?
Um, you must look within yourself to save yourself from your other self. Only then will your true self reveal itself.
Okay, 100%. So I really wanted my high school yearbook to have senior quotes, and I was gonna make that my senior quote.
Oh my god. We did have senior quotes, and I wish I had put that now.
But we didn't have it. But the year before, I remembered, oh shit, that's right. The top 10 in the high school, not to flex or anything, just saying, the top 10, the principal reads out, quotes when they call up the top 10 people up to the
Oh my
podium.
god.
And so my friend Jordan, he did the Patrick Star quote where it was like the inner machinations of my mind are an enigma. But he had the he put that as his senior quote. So I was like, shit, I can't wait to make him say you must look within yourself to find yourself. Only then will you truly, find yourself.
Yes,
That quote. I
yes.
wanted him to say that quote for my senior quote, but that was my year was the year that he did not do it, and I was like,
Oh my
damn it.
gosh. I hate that. I
I
hate
hate
that
it.
for you.
I hate it too, but it's okay. It's
It's
my
okay.
senior quote in my head.
Yes. In my heart, it's your senior quote as well.
I'm going to make a little booklet, and it'll just be the two of us. You have to send me an awkward senior year photo, And
Oh, okay, I will. It's when my hair was growing out, so
oh
you're
no,
gonna
we
be
should do
delayed.
that. We should do that with all our friends. We should make a
Oh my
yearbook. Cause in college we don't really have yearbooks, for
yeah.
obvious reasons. But we should make a yearbook. I think that would be cute.
One more quote from Iro is life happens wherever you are, whether you make it or not, which I just love, love, love because like
Mm.
it's like about like adaptability and like the nature of happiness and it's like because happiness isn't something that you like achieve. It's something that happens. Like it's
Mhm.
something that happens like day to day. It's very, very little things. It can be really big things, but most of the time like the happiness in your life is going to be added up from all these tiny things that happened, like
Mhm.
things that you didn't even notice.
It's something that you experience in the moment, right? It's a
Yeah,
vibe. Um,
it's not something you achieve; it's something you experience moment to moment. Yeah, it's ephemeral.
it's a
That's
yes,
it.
exactly. And in times like these where you're like isolated in your home, it's so hard it becomes easy to realize that because it's hard to understand happiness in the moment when there aren't other people around. Um,
Hmm.
to get a reaction from someone, Um,
Yeah,
being happy to be with someone. Like I'm happy to be with you right now, Lily.
me too. I'm happy we're having this cool conversation about this thing that we both love and
Hundred
brings us happiness.
100% and sadness, but in a good way,
Yeah, in the
and
good way, in the
and
cathartic way,
and, and makes us feral in a good way.
in a good way.
All 100% in a good way. 100%, I'd say Avatar: The Last Airbender is something that has entered our lives in different ways and has shown this dynamic story that is clean, 100% clean, um, and just is able to evoke a lot of emotions, all for a good ending, that, continues on to Legend of Korra, which we could
And
discuss
it
another
continues on
time.
in our
It
hearts.
continues on in our hearts. And in moments like these where we experience happiness, talking about it with our friends.
Yeah.
So, and meme about it. Still to this day, I say shit with my friends like, that's rough, buddy, or, and then
Yeah.
everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked,
Secret tunnel, like
Secret Tunnel. Yes,
that's
iconic.
always there.
Yes. I'm laughing thinking back on it. See, this is the true gift of Avatar. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it really is.
What?
Every time that I tell someone to watch Avatar, like I hope to God that they do it just so that they can
Yeah,
experience because maybe they will like have even like a piece of the happiness that I have gotten from it.
right. I it's changed my life 100%. Um,
Yeah.
all right, well, thank you everyone for listening to our little bit of a longer episode because we were a little bit more
We
there's a
were a
lot
little
of
excited
we're
today.
a little excited. We could honestly go on for probably another hour talking about
Yeah.
each season. We didn't even really
We're
talk
gonna do a
about
new
Toph.
podcast where we do it episode by episode.
Oh, 100%. I'm totally down to do that. Yeah, we didn't hit some of even half of the characters. We didn't even talk about Toph. Um,
I know.
uh,
God, I love Toph.
um, she does play a huge role in Legend of Korra, though.
Yes, which we'll talk about. Like, let's talk about that next week. Let's just do that.
Okay, since we're on the vibe of Avatar, we can continue on with Legend of Korra next week at our regular time, 2 o'clock. Um,
Yes.
and hopefully, I'm planning on getting a new microphone, and so because I want to start streaming games, with a regular
Ooh, she's a
schedule.
gamer girl.
Ooh, um, to entertain myself during the summer. But other than that, yeah, there you go. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.